Dad calling Sage. Dad calling Sage. How do you copy?
Yes, I think.
I'll read you loud and clear, Sage. Thanks. Hello, friends. Welcome back. I am Jason. In recent events in the disaster zone of Hurricane Helene in North Carolina, we were struggling with communications. Cell phone towers were down. You couldn't send text messages, couldn't make calls. You couldn't do all of the normal ways of communication that we've become so reliant upon. So what we were forced to do is two things. One was we hooked up Starlink, which gave us Wi-Fi capabilities, and then we could send text messages via and make calls via Wi-Fi. That was kind of hit and miss, and you were married to the Starlink unit. If you were outside of the Starlink unit, the unit's range for Wi-Fi, it wasn't any good. So like, let's say for example, what I was doing oftentimes when I was up there is I was staying at a hub, I was staying on location near a Starlink perhaps, and I was coordinating missions going in and out and getting supplies to various places. That's what I was doing. And that's all well and good if you were reaching out to somebody via Wi-Fi that has cell phone service somewhere else. But if you were in this disaster area in North Carolina and these locations that we're in, people didn't have that capability. So it's not like you could send a party out. You could send a couple guys out with their trucks and load it down with supplies or doing welfare checks or whatever on a granny that's 10 miles away that her home may or may not have gotten washed away. It's not like when they get there, they can just text you back because you have a Starlink. They would also have to have a Starlink mobile unit perhaps available. So what we were really, it worked, but it was a pain. So what we were doing is we were using radio communications such as these Baofeng radios right here. We were using those and we were basically relaying messages. We had essentially, what do you call them? Repeaters. We had human repeaters. So we knew kind of what the limit of our range was as far as our radios and our antennas. Like a big J-pole long antenna for one of these radios is capable of reaching pretty far. If I was up on top of my mountain here, I was able to talk to a friend that was nearly 20 miles away. And it's pretty significant and very, very helpful when grid is down. So with those simple GRMS type radios, we could make communication happen to some degree. Yes, range was somewhat limited, but it was super, super handy, and not just in sending missions out, but it was really handy in the fact that we could communicate around this just main hub that we were in. Somebody might be on the far side of the facility or this parking lot or whatever, and it would take me 10 minutes to get there and 10 minutes to get back or whatever, just because of the chaos. Having a radio and saying, hey, I need a thing from over there, can you get it to me? And they could respond to me pretty quick. So having radio communications was really, really helpful. And we were doing convoys, when we had vehicle convoys, because we were going into pretty dangerous places, not necessarily because we were worried we were going to get hijacked or something like that, although it's a possibility when you're going into these locations that have without rule of law. Pretty much it was kind of like the Wild West in the very beginning, for sure. I mean, calling 911 wasn't a thing, even if cell phones worked, because 911 was busy, and all of the police officers and all the fire departments, they were all really busy doing things and stuff. So it wasn't going to be you couldn't count on that. So having these convoys drive it out in multiple vehicles, because it was always a good idea to have multiple vehicles, because places we were going, really hazardous roads. There were roads that were completely undercut underneath them and just were falling off the cliff. And anything could happen. Flat tires, just general breakdown stuff, let alone, catastrophic fall off the side of the cliff stuff. Traveling by yourself, it was generally speaking a bad idea. So we would typically go with at least two vehicles, one in front of the other, and we would have radio communications between the two. So, we could stay in contact with one another and have a way to communicate and relay messages back and forth. So this radio right here, Alence, I'm not sure if I'm saying that exactly correct, but Alence, right here. This is a radio that was recently sent to me, and I haven't got a whole lot of a chance to work with it, a lot of experience with it just yet. But I'm going to be messing around with it a little bit today and see if it's up to snuff. If it's something that I can count on in the future. Now, just out of the box, this thing's brand new. Like I said, I don't have really much experience using this thing so far. I've been playing around with the keys and pushing the buttons and whatnot. But I would say fit and finish, quality control is significantly higher than the cheapo Baofeng right here. The cheapo Baofengs get the job done, but they're not waterproof. This one is advertised as waterproof, and that's huge. The Baofengs are not. You'd have to be careful with them if you're pouring down rain or whatever. You'd have to be careful and keep them protected in some shape or form. This one is advertised as waterproof. I have not thrown it in the creek yet to test that theory out, but that might be something that we get to later on. But before I do that, I just want to see how the thing works. And it comes pre-programmed with GRMS frequencies in there, and that's pretty handy. And so you can just basically turn the thing on, change the channel right here, which I kind of like that. I can just turn this dial on top right here, and I can get this thing to scroll through the channels, the pre-programmed channels in there, which is pretty handy. The layout, the buttons, it's pretty similar to the Baofeng actually, and for that reason I'm appreciative of it, because I don't have to learn a new system. I don't have to learn how to use a thing. I can just pick the thing up and start talking to my buddies if I should need to. Sage, you ready?
Channel mode.
I wonder if the radio antennas are compatible with one another, and I bet they are. And I know, I'm definitely not your radio guy. I'm not your radio nerd. I don't know everything about everything. That is the male end, and I need the female fitting. I can't make this one work, but I could, with a small adapter of some sort, I'm sure I can make that happen. It looks like they're basically the same. GRMS 19, that should get the job done. I'm going to lock the key just like that. I'm going to send that with you, put that in your pack. It'll be okay for the short ride, just when you get up there. Make sure it's cleaned off. We got her geared up, radioed up. When you get up there, hit the push to talk button and say, what's going to be your code name? What's going to be your handle, Sage?
Your mom.
No, you're going to be at my mom's. What's your handle going to be?
That's why I'm going to say your mom.
What's your radio call sign?
Your
Red
mom's
Rider?
house.
Do you want to be Red Rider?
No.
When you get up there, push the button, call me. So we will wait for her to get up there. She's about a quarter mile away, and there's quite a bit of forest and stuff between us, but I just want to check to see how the clarity is and test these things out for the first time. So see how it goes. Yeah, having some sort of backup form of radio communications I think is really important. Now, I'm not your radio nerd. I don't geek out on all the antennas and the frequencies and the watts and the things. It's not my thing. It's not one of my passions, okay? However, I do see the need and I do see the value of having a backup form of communications, because communications is key. Without it, you're floundering, You're just guessing. You're just making stuff up as you go and hoping for the best without some sort of communications. Having something like this radio right here can be a game changer. It could be the difference. Maybe it could be the difference between you wasting all day long on going to check on a thing that's already been done, like what happened to us a lot in the North Carolina relief effort. We would go check on somebody that needed to be checked on. Turns out someone had already done it because of the lack of communication. So having something like this can save a lot of time. Dad calling Sage. Dad calling Sage. How do you copy?
Hello?
Do you copy?
Yes, I think.
I read you loud and clear, Sage. Thanks.
Okay.
So test number 1, a success for sure. And like I said, this is not a long-term review of this radio or anything like that. I'll need to put it through its paces, and I'll need to be using it for a long time before I say, yep, this is the one for you. As of now, it just appears to be a better quality than the cheap Baofeng radios. It just appears to be so. The fit and the finish is good. The way the batteries lock into place, the knobs, the buttons, everything just seems to be a little bit higher quality. So, and waterproof, that's big. That's huge in my book. Again, haven't tested that out thoroughly, but I will in future videos. Anything involving radios, you might see this one. If it turns out to be a good one, you will see this in my hand, and I'll be taking it on adventures and missions and future disaster responses and stuff like that. Having radio communications was super handy, especially when we were in bigger convoys with lots of different vehicles, lots of moving parts, and trying to navigate through treacherous roads and traffic and all of that. Having just someone in the lead car having a radio, being able to communicate to everybody in the back saying, hey, we got a right turn coming up in a half a mile, start merging over, that kind of stuff was really, really handy, and saved a lot of headaches and a lot of grief. So for that reason, a radio such as this one right here is, it's just super valuable. And as much as I don't like it, and as much as I'm not the tech guy and I'm definitely not the radio geek, that is for sure, I definitely appreciate the value of these things and what they allow you to be able to do, especially in grid down type situations. So anyway, guys, I really do appreciate you watching. Please hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't done so already. Look forward to more from radios and stuff like this as I'm on my radio journey, learning more about them and becoming more proficient at them. Again, this is not a long-term review of this radio right here. It's just the first time I've tried it out for the most part. So we'll be putting it through its paces, and we'll be testing this thing out in future missions, that's for sure. Leave a comment. Any comment will do. If you don't feel like talking about radios today, tell me what your favorite movie is. Don't care, as long as you leave a comment, because comments are very helpful for boosting the performance of the videos, and I'd be extremely grateful for it. If you haven't subscribed already, please do so. Hit that notifications bell so you get caught up, you stay on top of all the crazy things that we got going on here at On3, and I cannot wait to see you on the next one. You did it.
Yep.
Nice work.